kabataan, fourth-class municipalities, hindi po madaling requirements ang mga to para sa kanila. So doon po tayo pumapasok. Hindi dahil ang tingog ay eksperto sa mga bagay na to, kundi may kapasidad po tayo bilang kinatawan ng mga tao to create convergence among experts, among government agencies, na nakaka-create tayo ng sustainable at self-sustaining na mekanismo para sa pag-finance ng mga hospital infrastructure, lalo na sa kanayunan. Pero in the light of, i-announce ko po ito, in the light of recent events, kasi we have to remember that the program has been developed with the goal of building confidence among LGUs para sila magkaroon ng lakas ng loob na pumunta sa DBP. Pero nakakalungkot po na nitong mga nakaraang araw ay binabatikos po yung programa. Meron po mga pagpuna na minsan unfair criticism na po. May isang senador po na gumawa ng privilege speech na hindi lang naman ho itinama ang mga laman ng kanyang sinabi. Merang isang nagpapakilalang eksperto na wala nang ibang sinabi na pagpuna pero wala namang binigay na solusyon o alternatibo. Nakita namin na hindi na makakatulong ang patuloy na partisipasyon ng tingog sa programang ito. Bagamat sinusuportahan pa rin namin ang inisyatibong tulungan ng ating mga LGU, kagabi po nagpulong po yung mga opisyal po ng Tingog Party List at nag-decide po kami to take a step back and to withdraw from the MOA. So we decided that siguro in a better time, if not, we leave it to the agencies to really look into this as a solution. But nonetheless, we remain committed. Gayon yan yung sinabi ko sa privilege speech, marami namang paraan. Yun yung sinasabi ko. Pag gusto mong tumulong, marami palaging paraan. Yung mahilig maghanap ng pupunain, kahit anong gawin mo, may pupuna. Sana makita na lang ho ng mga kababayan natin kung sino po yung gumawa, sino po yung hanggang puna lang po.
Hari ko bang susugan yung sinabi ni Kong Jude, It's really difficult, no? Na i-level up namin yung ating mga district hospitals. To give you an idea, para mangyari yun, we even have to legislate. And the legislative process is napakahaba. At kahit mapasa na ito sa batas, maghahanap ka pa ng pondo sa DOH, sisingit ka, makikiusap pa na i-prioritize ito. Yun naman pala, for the longest time, meron na pala pamamaraan. So, kung hindi aayaw na ang tingog dito sa initiative na to, I hope somebody else will take the initiative, Kong Jude, kasi...
Natanong po sa amin yan, bakit daw tingog ang nakaisip? Yan din ho ang tanong namin nung nakita namin yung mekanismo, nung nakita namin kung yung pangangailangan, di ba? Nandyan nga yung, in fact, I remember when we made the first presentation, ang unang sinabi ng Pangulo ng DBP, bakit ngayon lang natin ginagawa ito? Siguro, nagkataon lang na kami yung nakaisip, kaya ho tayo naging masigasig sa pagsulong nito. And that's what is unfortunate yung efficiency sa PhilHealth. Kasi po, kung makikita nyo sa PhilHealth, hindi naman naging problema ang kawalan ng pondo. Hindi naging problema ang kawalan ng pera. Ang problema, nagkaroon ng dissatisfaction at frustration ng mga tao kasi hindi po nagre-reflect sa benepisyo nila yung perang binabayaran nila as premium. At nung nakita nila kung gaano karami ang pera pa na hinahawakan ng PhilHealth, nagtatanong ang taong bayan, nagtatanong ang Kongreso, anong gagawin nyo sa pera nyo? Tas ganito lang kaliit ang nakatanggap naming benepisyo. Ganito kalaki naman ang binabayaran naming premium. Kaya magandang balikan. And this is the thing I want to stress. It's important to ensure accountability. Kasi lalong-lalo na nung panahon ng pandemya na pinabayaan ng PhilHealth ito mangyari, kailangan may managot. Kasi po, marami pong kababayan natin ang nagkasakit, hindi ho nakakuha ng benepisyo nila. At merong iilan, I'm sure with every inefficiency, meron pong nagbe-benefit. At kung sino man ang nag-benefit nun, kailangan managot po.
May I just add, without wanting to minimize yung responsibility ng mga current officials ng PhilHealth, in fairness naman sa kanila, it's really hard na palakarin ng maayos ang isang bagay na minana mo na rin, ano? It's been more than 10 years, and yung poor utilization rate somehow may be attributed to that, you know. But nevertheless, at this point, I think we have to look forward and pose this challenge dun sa ating PhilHealth officials na maybe this time you can spell a difference, no? Bearing in mind that lahat ng tao ay nakatutok na, and bearing in mind yung mga limitations, mga pagkakamali ng nakaraan, I'm sure they're going to do a better job this time. And as I said, it's also a matter of managing people's expectations, no? When we passed the Universal Healthcare Act in the 17th Congress, ang expectation ng tao 100% na ang coverage, ano? Pero the truth of the matter is that hindi naman kaya ng ating pamahalaan tustusan yung 100% na yun. But we're working towards there, and I think we're taking baby steps in the right direction. Kong Jill?
Well, if I just add, no, yesterday we started the briefing conducted by the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability, wherein we invited guests from PhilHealth, DOH, and DBM, and other concerned agencies. So, going back to the issue on PhilHealth, we appreciate the efforts of increasing the benefit package or the rate case, wherein PhilHealth committed to have an increase of 50%, no? By next month, 50% na po. Isa pa sa hiningi natin na commitment sa PhilHealth is that for them to decrease the premium contribution. Dahil malinaw ho sa batas. Sinasabi kasi kahapon na this year, nag-implement sila ng increase because that is primarily based on the law. Pero sinasabi rin sa batas na kung sobra-sobra ang pera ng PhilHealth, isa sa mga dapat gagawin nyo ay babaan ang PhilHealth contribution. And that is the commitment we asked from PhilHealth yesterday. And the President, through President Ledesma, committed na isa din po yan sa gagawin nila sa mga susunod na buwan. Isa pa, I would like to emphasize that it's now the best time for PhilHealth to act as an health insurer. Hindi naman sila negosyo. Sinasabi nga ng ating kasama, this is not a business enterprise. You are a service provider and therefore act as such. So, yun yung nakita natin ngayon, no, sa administrasyon po ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. I guess this is the legacy that the President would like to leave, especially to the 115 million members of PhilHealth, na ngayon pong mga darating na taon, mas lalong mararamdaman ang PhilHealth. Even without the subsidy from the government, sobra-sobra po ang pera ng PhilHealth. And anong gagawin natin sa pera? We really need to utilize, use it, and act as a health insurer upang mas malaki ang makikinabang at mababawas sa mga hospital expenses. Tignan natin, they have 150 billion in surplus. They have 280 billion reserve fund. Meron pa silang investable fund na 490 billion as of November 2024. So anong gagawin dito natin sa mga perang to? So I guess it's all about prioritization. Hindi naman natin priority ang investment. Priority natin ang expansion of healthcare benefits para sa ating pong mga kababayang Pilipino. So, as committed by PhilHealth, kumbaga, mas magiging effective, efficient, and makikita natin na meron pong mga pagbabago, malaking pagbabago ngayon sa PhilHealth.
Okay, thank you po. Last question na lang po. Sulitin ko lang yung pagkakataon na nandito po si Kong Isidre. I understand may nilabas na po kayong statement kanina as a chairperson ng House Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. Pero for the record and for a soundbite po, may I ask your views and even other Kongs din po pwedeng bahagi ng kanilang pahayag ukol sa pagbabalik bansa ni Mary Jane Veloso. And idagdag ko na lamang din po, may nakabinbin din kasi ditong resolution. I understand kay Kong Marisa Del Mar Magsino na for clemency kay Veloso. Ano po din yung pananaw nyo rito?
First una, we'd like to welcome Mary Jane Veloso back to the Philippines. So we understand that these are rather still going to be a difficult phase in her personal journey, no? Pero alam naman natin, at the very least, ang pwede natin, we can be assured that as right now is because of the President incessant and persistent diplomatic efforts and also our friends from DFA, no, she is at the very least off from the death row. Wala na ho siya wala na po yung chance na mapatawan siya ng death penalty kasi wala hong death penalty sa ating bansa. At least at the very least po. Alam ko merong mga nagpahayag po ang Indonesian government na bahala po ang ating gobyerno how to deal with kung may clemency man or kung ano, but until such time that the Department of Justice and the Department of Foreign Affairs would be more specific and indicative with their information, I would rather leave it to them first to explain anong pwedeng mangyari. Ang sa akin lang po bilang chairman ng House Committee on Overseas Worker Affairs, hindi lang ho si Mary Jane Veloso ang ganito ang sitwasyon. Hindi lang ho si Mary Jane Veloso ang OFW na nagkaroon ho ng problema sa legal na minsan sa mga paratang ng krimen, at marami pong Pilipino around the world ang nasa ganyang kalagayan. Ang sa akin lang ho, siguro ang hingilin natin ang matuto po tayo sa sitwasyon nito, especially in providing ready and accessible legal assistance for our OFWs. Sometimes something as simple as providing an interpreter can go a long way ensuring that they have their opportunity to a fair trial abroad, no. Hindi naman natin pinagsasawalang bahala yung any criminal liability or responsibility kung meron man, pero ang sa atin lang kung kahit saan man sila sa mundo, dapat ang every OFW ay magkaroon ho ng kaukulang tulong legal. Yun lang po, at protection po ng kanilang mga karapatan.
Mula po sa Committee on Women and Gender Equality, we welcome these developments. Nung isang araw po na-meet ko personally yung mother ni Mary Jane Veloso, and actually I was trying to feel what she was feeling, no? Parang merong halo na pagka-nervyos and then looking forward na mag-reunite sila. And syempre ito'y patunay dun sa dedication ng ating Pangulo na pangalagaan ang interes ng ating mga overseas Filipino workers. That said, hindi rin dapat nating kalimutan yung mga ibang nasa similar na situation. Naalala ko rin na when past administrations had practically given up on Mary Jane Veloso, it was President Marcos who insisted na dapat mapauwi siya. And I'm happy, we're very happy at least isa pang pamilyang Pilipinong mabubuo kahit man lamang pang Noche Buena. Sa 24 ang balita ko, magkikita-kita sila, and we share their joy. And we pray for Mary Jane Veloso.
Well, tungkol ho dun kay Mary Jane Veloso, unang-una, this is a positive development. For so many years na inaayos natin yung bilateral talks with the government of Indonesia para mapauwi po dito si Mary Jane Veloso. And it's for the time, no, sa panahon po ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, sa administrasyon niya, na na-realize ito pong ating mithiin na mapauwi dito ang ating kababayan. Ang maganda ho dito ay ito yung nagpapakita na yung compassionate justice ay nananatili. And this is a result of an effort exerted by our government. And we appreciate also the Indonesian government for heeding our calls na mapauwi ho dito si Mary Jane Veloso. Ang maganda ho dito, dalawa, no? Unang-una, we were able to spare Mary Jane Veloso from the death row. Pangalawa, yung serving of sentence, no, for the said crime ay dito na niya po gugugulin sa ating bansa. So anong maganda ho doon? Maganda doon sapagkat mabibisita na po siya ng kanyang pamilya. Bagay na matagal na pong inaasam ni Mary Jane at ang kanyang pamilya na naiwan dito sa ating bansa na mangyari ang nasabi pong pangyayari. Anyway, doon po sa panawagan ay, if hindi ako nagkakamali, it was Representative Arlene Brosas who filed a resolution, or I guess magpa-file ng resolution asking for an executive clemency, no? So, you know, under the Constitution, one of the powers of the President is to grant an executive clemency, and it is solely a prerogative of the President. So, it is something that is subject to the wisdom of our President. So, whatever the decision is, we will respect the President about this matter. Yun po.
Thank you, Mela. Next is Jelly Mendez from DWIC. Please take the floor.
Sir, connected lang din po kay Miss Mela po, yung sa question. Kumpiyansa po ba tayo? Kasi nanawagan po si Mary Jane Veloso kay PBBM na payagan siya na magkaroon ng clemency. Kumpiyansa po ba tayo na pagbibigyan siya ni PBBM, and hindi po ba to maaabuso ng iba pang mga OFW na gumawa lang din ng krimen dahil tiwala naman sila na matutulungan din ng gobyerno?
I'm sure there were negotiations, no? There were stipulations, agreement na hindi pa tayo ganun kamaalam sa ngayon. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, antayin ko muna magsalita ang Secretary of Justice at ang Secretary of Foreign Affairs kasi sila po yung kaparte ng negosasyon para mapauwi po si Mary Jane Veloso. Of course, we all want justice served at the same time, diba? And then we also want to make sure that our Filipino citizens, wherever they are, whatever the situation is, they have the full protection of the law. And in this case, the President has already manifested and shown his concern, at hindi lang concern, sinigurado talaga niyang may uuwi sa Pilipinas. Ang malaking problema lang naman natin is sa Indonesia may death penalty, at ang kaparusahan sa crime kung saan nakitang guilty si Mary Jane Veloso ay kamatayan. Yun po sana yung gusto nating maiwasan. Kung magdidesisyon man ng Pangulo na bigyan ng clemency si Mary Jane Veloso, katulad ng sinabi ni Congressman Gil Bungalon, yun pa ay magiging prerogatiba po ng ating Pangulo. At ang Kongreso po, kami po, we will listen to his wisdom, and siguro in the process, hindi man siguro ngayong taon, sa mga susunod na taon, no, there will be a chance to review the case, because however it is, and this is a story that nangyayari sa maraming OFW sa ibang bansa. Well, they are also found guilty for alleged crimes. We cannot deny the fact that they are also victims of circumstance, di ba? At hindi natin pwedeng pabayaan ng ating mga kababayan sa ganong sitwasyon. Yun po ang pinakita ng Pangulo. Pero at the same time, we have our commitments to follow. We have our own laws to uphold. Kaya sabi mo, sana hindi maabuso. At the same time will tell when is the best time to review and consider her case again.
Sir, nakatanggap po ng bomb threat yung Senado. Kamusta po yung seguridad at kalagayan ngayon ng Kamara?
Ngayong araw ba?
It's a problem.
Move to adjourn.
I don't think it's something to be taken lightly.
Totoo ba yun?
I don't think it's something that should be taken lightly. Lahat po ng ating mga... I think it's a house naman. We've always been very... we have always considered the security precautions, no? And we hope our friends in the Senate are safe, no? Especially the employees. Kasi nagtatrabaho lang naman yung iba doon. So, I think in the spirit of Christmas din, hindi magandang may ganito tayong mga pangyayari.
Last na lang po, yung regarding po sa Bagyong Kerubin, kamusta na po yung update po na ginagawa ng Tingog Party List, particular yung kahandaan nyo po sa mga maapektuhan dahil may mga nasa ilalim na po ng signal number 1 and syempre delikado din po sa ibang mga lugar.
Kahapon pa po nagkaroon ng cancellation ng mga classes at dun sa aming sa Tacloban at sa mga karatig mga bayan, no. I think ang maganda lang talaga sa mga nangyayari ngayon, we've already learned so much from previous disasters na ang kahandaan parang built-in na talaga sa amin. Even for Tingog, kahapon pa po tayo nag-preposition ng mga posibleng relief goods kasi inaasahan natin na given the Christmas season, hindi ko magiging madali ang paghanda, at least even the procurement ng ang pagbili ng mga relief goods. So may mga standby preposition goods na po tayo at tuloy-tuloy po ang ating coordination sa ating Office of Civil Defense at sa regional and regional DRMC. So yun po, hindi naman ginagawa natin ngayon lang, ginagawa natin every time may bagyo. We have like 48 to 24 hour updates that we're getting from OCD and Tingog, especially our offices in Eastern Visayas have been mobilized since kahapon pa po.
Sir, may maghahain daw po ng impeachment. Ano pong update?
Wala akong alam. Thank you.
Thank you, Jelly. Kenneth Basilio from Business World, you're recognized.
Yes, hello. Magandang umaga po. Circle back ko lang ulit sa budget bill po. Sir, nabanggit ko kasi sa budget, napansin ko sa budget na lumobo po ulit yung unprogrammed appropriations by 373 billion. And yung mga big ticket foreign assisted infrastructure projects po natin ay doon na ilagay. Secretary Recto and Secretary Pangandaman na rin earlier in the year expressed concerns kasi sa delays sa implementation nitong mga foreign assisted projects po. Bakit po nailagay ulit yung mga big ticket infra projects nga po dito sa unprogrammed appropriations?
Okay, I will be very concise when it comes to answering unprogrammed appropriations kasi there's a pending case in the Supreme Court and I don't want to in any way affect the position of the House on that matter. Ito na lang ganito kasimple. Pag sinabi nating unprogrammed appropriations, pasok siya sa budget, pero ang pondo niya nakadepende on three things. Una, kung ma-hit ng target or may surplus ng target ng revenue collection for the current year. Ibig sabihin, around March or April kung saan ang deadline natin for the revenue collection, pag may sumobra dyan, dun po natin pupondohan. Pangalawa, kung meron ng savings, especially from underutilized or unutilized appropriations of the previous year, yun po, yun yung pangatlo po, kung merong borrowings. At clearly, dito po nahuhulog yung iba pong mga mega infrastructure projects. Hindi po ibig sabihin na hindi po siya napasok po siya sa unprogram, na hindi po siya priority. Kinitignan lang po natin ang fiscal efficiency. Bakit natin i-hold yung isang malaking chunk ng pondo kung ang proyekto naman hindi pa umabot sa punto na kakailanganin talaga yung pera at may nakalaan naman, may nakaabang naman na papasok na revenue or savings na tinitignan o baka utang na kailangan ng i-complete. Bakit lang natin nilalagay na unprogram? Kasi wala kong pwedeng gastusin ng gobyerno, wala po sa batas. At minsan mahirap po magpasa ng supplemental budget sa national. Madali po yun sa local government. Yun po yung I think that would sufficiently explain the reason. Hindi po ibig sabihin na unprogrammed, hindi sila ganun ka-priority. Pag sinabi pong ang program, ang target lang ho talaga natin is to accelerate spending and to ensure fiscal efficiency na itong, lalo na kasi hindi to maliliit na mga halaga na hindi naman na sabihin na lang natin hindi naman siya na hold yung pondo kasi nakaabang siya for implementation. Special because many of these multi-year, ano tawag nito? ODA assisted projects are actually multi-year projects kung hindi ako nagkakamali. Okay.
Again, same reactions with Congressman Jude because there's a pending case before the Supreme Court concerning the 2024 budget, questioning that particular issue. So we do not want to speculate and of course affect the position of the House of Representatives on that matter. Secondly, program appropriations will come into play if revenues are targeted or collected. Ibig sabihin, yung mga line items doon na merong specific allocation ay mapupunduhan lamang kapag mataas ang ating collection or sa taxes or revenues. So this is the so-called standby appropriation. Yung CAN program naman ay pag mataas yung target sa collection at taxes, pwede itong magpondo ng mga batas na may papasa within the year, no, na hindi pa natin alam kung ano yung mga batas na yon. So with that, I guess nabanggit nga ni Kong Jude na hindi naman ibig sabihin na nasaan program siya, hindi na siya priority, hindi siya ibig sabihin na hindi na rin siya importante. What we're trying to do is that lahat ng pwedeng mapondohan, kasi lahat naman importante at kailangan natin lagyan ng pondo. Yung iba, it will depend again on the target, on the collection of taxes and revenues.
Follow-up lang po, pero hindi po ba tayo natatakot na madedelay po yung implementation nitong mga big ticket infra projects po? Kasi for instance po, nandito po yung mga ibang flood management projects po, Marikina Pasig River flood control project for instance po. And pagdating po sa unprogrammed appropriations nga na for standby funds lang ito, hindi ba tayo natatakot nga na madelayed implementation dahil hindi pa na isa sa batas yung mga pending tax measures that could support nga yung revenue income ng national government?
I'm not at all concerned. No, I've seen how multi-year projects are implemented and planned, and normally may overlap talaga yan. That gives a comfortable lead time for the next stages. In fact, kung titignan natin, wala naman tayo naririnig na natitenga ang isang ODA assisted projects. Also because implementation and even the release of overseas development assistance is always progressive naman, hindi naman yan biglaan. So there are mechanisms in place to ensure, especially kung continuous na to in the middle of the implementation, and we trust naman na the government agencies involved are able to address these concerns in the course of the implementation.
And last from me na lang po. Sir, yung sa AKAP po, help pa-explain na lang din po kasi di ba if tama yung pagkakaintindi ko, DSWD yung sole implementer neto. Pero may nabanggit kasi nahatian between congressmen and senators. So 26 billion nga po, 21 billion for congressmen and 5 billion for senators. Kung DSWD yung sole implementer, bakit may ganitong setup po nahatian?
Yes, the sole implementer is DSWD, and if you attend yung pagro-roll out ng AKAP sa iba't ibang distrito sa buong bansa, you will see it's really DSWD personnel ang nagche-check ng paperwork, nagagawa ng due diligence to make sure na walang duplication, at talaga namang nagko-qualify to receive itong ayuda na ito. Now, ano bang role namin mga congressmen at mga senators? The sad fact of the matter is that ang DSWD is undermanned. Wala naman sila talagang, they're not that capacitated to roll out. So what we do is basically to assist DSWD personnel. Dahil kami, bilang mga district congressmen, meron kaming mga organizations. And we also have people whom can do the groundwork, which is not to say na hindi naging objective ang DSWD. At pinagbibigyan kami mga congressman, kung hindi talaga pa pwede ang isang tao dahil hindi siya qualified, hindi talaga lulusot. And that has been our experience in the district. Alam mo nga, naging usapin ng AKAP before. Nagre-reklamo ang napakaraming tao. Sabi, ma'am, bakit ang AKAP napakahirap mag-qualify? In fact, napaka-stringent ng criteria na ginagamit ng DSWD. Well, that's just to give you an idea kung gaano ka efficient, ka stricto, at ka diligent ang mga taga-DSWD. So, I think you're basically asking na politika ba ito? I can only speak for our district as well as my fellow congressmen. Hindi po. Hindi siya na po-politicize in the sense that pag ikaw ay near poor ka na at nangangailangan ka nito at meron ka namang papeles talaga na may papakita at mapapatunayan sa DSWD, you get what you deserve. In other words, we do not nominate people who do not deserve this out of political accommodation kasi it's counterproductive for us, as politicians. Mas maganda na nakikita ng aming mga constituents na yung nakakatanggap ng AKAP are those who really qualify for AKAP at those na nangangailangan. Imagine mo kung magiging usapin sa aming mga distrito, ito talaga si Congresswoman, pinopolitika niya AKAP. Hindi ko gusto yon. Any thinking politician would recognize that that is counterproductive, politically speaking. And of course, the greatest pleasure na kukuha namin as mga ama at ina ng aming mga distrito na turingan is to see na those who really need this help ang siyang nakakatanggap. And this is thanks to the diligence of the sole implementer, which is DSWD.
In my understanding, siguro nakapeg yung AKAP sa mga number of congressmen or senators. Is basically, it's one fair way of making sure that equitable naman ang distribution sa iba't ibang bahagi ng ating bansa, lalo na sa congressman kasi district constituencies are divided according to population naman. Alam mo naman yon yung pagpeg, no? But nonetheless, I think that fact is immaterial given the fact that DSWD has full custody of the funds. DSWD guidelines are followed. Even if we recommend, they will still be subject to DSWD scrutiny. They will still be subject to government DSWD guidelines. So, other than efficiency, I don't think it would be fair to impute politics in that case.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you for waiting. Isa Bendaño Amali from DCWB. You may ask your questions now.
Hello po, magandang hapon po. Follow up lang din po doon sa AKAP kasi may mga groups po kasi na nananawagan kay Presidente Marcos na yun po yung i-veto, yung AKAP. Kayo po ba mga congressmen, ayoko pong i-preempt, no? Pero kayo po ba mga congressmen, tatanggapin nyo po kung sakasakalin na i-veto ng Presidente itong AKAP?
Ako personally, naniniwala ko hindi i-veto ni President yan Dahil ang feedback naming mga district congressmen is that malaking tulong talaga. And you know what? For the longest time, covered ang poorest of the poor. Merong 4Ps and other programs mula sa DSWD and even other agencies. Pero yung mga taong gusto nating pigilan from sliding down dun sa ating economic scale, ito yung mga beneficiaries ng AKAP. So there is a real need, and that need is being met right now. Of course, we know it's a stopgap measure, and hopefully there is higher pay and there are more jobs and economic progress as a whole. But in the meantime, anong gagawin natin? Watch. We cannot with our, we have to do something about it, and AKAP, I think, is the answer. Kong Jill?
Well, ako din, hindi ako naniniwala na yung pondo para sa programa ng AKAP ay ibibito po ng ating presidente. Isa ito sa mga programa na nag-address ng ating pong mga problema ng ating mga kababayan. Let's start looking at the positive side of the program. I can speak for my constituents in Bicol. Dinaanan po ng 2-3 bagyo nitong mga nakarang buwan. And AKAP saved them, because we cannot always rely on the relief goods na ibibigay po ng ating pong mga government agencies and other private organizations. So, the AKAP program addresses mainly several issues of our country. Yung sa inflation. So, ang maganda ho dito sa AKAP, direkta pong napapakinabangan ng ating taong bayan. Imagine receiving 5,000 pesos for a person who is earning 10 to 1,000 below o siya low-income earner. So, basically, this is a direct and immediate assistance sa ating pong mga kababayan. And this is one way, ako naniniwala ko dito, this is one way of returning to the people who are paying taxes through this program. So, naibabalik natin yung kanilang mga buwis, yung mga kanilang kontribusyon sa ating gobyerno sa pamamagitan ng programa. And AKAP is one of the programs na napapakinabangan po nila. So, if meron naman pong magkikriticize, ako I suggest that if they will criticize something, especially a program that is very beneficial, siguro yung implementation papagandahin na lang sana. Again, let me reiterate that the sole implementer of AKAP program is DSWD.
The fact siguro na pinasok ng bicameral conference committee ng mababang kapulungan sa version po namin yung AKAP already stresses or already emphasizes our belief in the merits of the program. Alam na yung position namin. We will respect the president whatever the decision will be in the end, but we hope lang, ako personally I hope lang that the program will be judged based on its merits. Alam naman natin yung paano yung individual na benefits niyan ng AKAP, pero ako I'm really more also on the macro economic effects of the AKAP. Like for example, sa mga lugar kung saan katulad sa constituency ni Congressman Jill Bongalon sa Bicol, hindi lang ho nakatulong ang AKAP para sa individual na mga pamilya, kahit to yung mga maliliit na negosyante sa lugar na po yun, mabilis po sila nakakabangon kasi yung tao may pambili ho ng pera. Elementary economics po, velocity of money always accelerates growth, diba? At nakikita ho natin sa buong bansa, ang AKAP ay naging hindi lang kahit papaano a significant economic stimulus in recent months, since it was launched this year. Kaya nga sinasabi ko palagi, ang AKAP sa lahat ng social amelioration programs, dito po pinakamabilis ang ROI ng ating gobyerno. Bakit po? Una, yung tinutulungan ng AKAP may trabaho. Hindi po sila, mali po yung idea na nagtutulong na yung mga tambay. Hindi ho tambay ang beneficiaries ng AKAP. They are productive citizens of this country. Nagkataon lang ho, nakapos po yung kita talaga niya. Depende, like for example, with the inflation, with the natural disasters. Pumunta ho ako sa Mega Mall, nakita ho nila, nakapin ho ako ng Congress, nagpapasalamat po yung taga-pindot doon sa elevator. Kahit papano, sir, may dagdag ho kami 5,000. Ipagkakait pa ba natin yan sa kababayan natin? Alam naman natin gaano sila kasipag. Kita naman natin kahit papano kasi breadwinners ang mga to, sa kanila nakadepende and consumption ng pamilya nila. At in the end, ang ripple effect nito sa ekonomiya malaki din, put together. At baka ho tayo nag-iisip na Pilipinas ang gumagawa nito. Sa Thailand, 16 years old and above, lahat ho nakatanggap ng 10,000 baht na economic stimulus package. So meron ho silang, tawagin na lang nating parang akap. Pero ito nga, hindi mo kailangan i-apply. Talagang binigyan sila ng pera, 10,000 baht. That's about 18,000 pesos per individual. Lahat ng Thai, 16 years old and above. Kasi naniniwala sila, pag maraming perang ipam, kasi kung mahirap kasi ang buhay, ang tendency, itatago nila yung pera nila. They will withdraw cash from circulation. At dahil doon humihina ang negosyo, humihina ang consumption, at sa mga populasyon na katulad ng Pilipinas, yun po nagtatranslate po yun sa sluggish economy natin. Pero kung like for example, may natural disasters, nagpa-akap tayo, payout, bibili nila ng pera. Yung mga negosyo makakapag-restock ulit, lumalakas po ang merkado. At malaking bagay po yun on a macro scale. At yun lang ho yung request ko. Wag ho nating porket ayuda lang, ganun ang tingin. There is always a larger economic impact, even of these programs like this. And I hope when the decision comes whether to include or not to include, the program will be judged based on its merits.
Thank you, Isa. Haji Camino from Brigada News.
Morning po, Kong. Ayan. Babalikan ko lang po yung budget kanina. Of course, Kong Jill already mentioned about the process kanina, yung veto message ng Pangulo. Paano po yung magiging yung mangyayari po dito since last session day na po mamaya? And 'di ba parang kailangan po ulit na pag naibalik na po sa Congress yung budget, kailangan po ulit i-ratify. Paano po ba magkakaroon pa ulit ng special session? Papatawag po ba ng special session? And kaya pa po bang habulin before the year ends for the President's signature yung GAB? Salamat po.
Yeah, again, the usual process is that once we ratified the report of the Bicameral Conference Committee, pinaprepare na po yung enrolled bill, no? Yung enrolled bill po na yun po yung pinapadala sa Office of the President. No, yun po titignan ng ating pong presidente, yung ating ipinasa dito po sa Kongreso. So again, under the Constitution, the President may veto the bill passed by Congress. And with that, of course, that will be subject of a thorough review on the part of the President. And if he sees that some of the items will be subject of a veto, then he will prepare a veto message, no? Before the scheduled signing of the General Appropriations Bill. So with that, until now, we haven't received any from the Office of the President. But I would like that I don't want to preempt what will happen next, because that will be the subject or depende po sa outcome, no, ng desisyon ng ating Pangulo. But then again, I am confident that the General Appropriations Bill will be signed before the year ends. So yun po. So subject po yun sa if there's a need to reconvene. Anyway, that will not take one day Mabilis lang naman yan So, I guess the Senate and the House of Representatives are more than willing to attend if there is a need, no, to reconvene for that purpose.
I think, no, just to clarify also, tama yung sinabi ni Kong Jill, but in addition, hindi po natin inasahan na i-veto yung buong budget. You know, the President can exercise line budget items, and even if, say, the President decided to veto it without without recalling the bill, no, without asking the bicameral conference committee to reconvene and simply sign into law the GAA as it is, but with the vetoed items, the president is empowered naman to assign appropriations from unappropriated, unutilized appropriations for the current year. So there are standby mechanisms in the budget that would allow the president to address the fiscal requirements of priority programs in case there is a need to do that in the course of the fiscal year.
Do you have any follow-up, Haji? No. Thank you, Haji. There is a phone-in question from Rosalie Cos of UNTV. Follow-up lang po kay Kongs Bungalon and Asidre. As you mentioned, you can exercise your right to override the decision of the President on the national budget, particularly his veto power. Just to be particular po, what will make you override the veto power of the President on the issue of GAA? Thanks po.
Well, again, we cannot speculate at this time kasi hindi pa natin alam kung ano po yung i-veto ng ating pong presidente. And I don't think na darating ko tayo doon sa punto na i-override natin yung veto power ng ating pong presidente because we are confident na kung meron man pong ibibito ang ating presidente, I guess that is something doon in relation to the DepEd budget. And if the veto will restore the budget of DepEd, we will support that. Hindi na namin i-override yung veto power po ng presidente.
Tulad ng sinabi ko sa kanina, hindi ito unusual na nangyayari. Nangyayari talaga yan. Every year, may items talaga yan na binibito. Kasi minsan in the course of, it's a matter of perspective. Minsan nagkakaroon ng pagkakataon, ibang pananaw ng legislatura, iba din ang pananaw ng ehekutibo. And this is all part of a healthy democracy. Kaya nga ho, ang paalala ko lang ho sa lahat, kung meron ho kayong nababasa sa social media, mas magandang linangin pa natin ang ating kaalaman. Minsan, a little knowledge is dangerous. Di ba? Porket narinig natin na ibibito, akala na natin yung buong budget, wala na tayong budget next year. Hindi po mangyayari yun. Meron ho minsan line item vetoes, meron ding standby provision ng presidente to allocate funds in the course of the fiscal year sa unprogrammed. Hindi po ibig sabihin na hindi sila popondohan. Ibig sabihin lang po nun, wala pa yung perang pampondo doon. May mga proseso po at maganda po itong nangyari. I hope you don't get me wrong. I'm really happy that people are actually interested in all these dynamics because naalala ko 20 years ago walang nagtatanong kung ano ang override sa veto. Pero ngayon people are actually interested. But it's good to also put the people at ease. There is nothing unusual with this process. The President has the duty to scrutinize the budget before he signs it into law. Congress has already performed its duty by presenting the proposed General Appropriations Bill to the President for his signature. And this is all part of a healthy democracy.
In addition doon, I just would like to clarify na hindi lang naman yung budget yung binivito. Because under the GAA, makikita natin dyan, it consists of general and special provisions. We have to remember that the executive department is the one who implements the law, the one who implements the GAA. So kung may makikita sila doon, aside from the fact na kung gusto nila mag-restore ng budget, pero kahit malaki yung budget, nakikita nila doon sa general and special provisions, ay mahihirapan sila na i-implement yun. Then the President can exercise his veto power for that particular general or special provision. Yung mga provision na ito yung mga general guidelines on how to implement the program. Halimbawa, yung fuel subsidy, paano natin siya mapapakinabangan? Dapat may mag-trigger. Ibig sabihin, dapat nakalagay doon sa special provision na dapat, halimbawa, kung 3 sunod-sunod na buwan ay mataas ang presyo ng langis, yun yung magti-trigger natin na para magamit natin yung fuel subsidy. If hindi reasonable yung provision na yon, kasi sila yung mag-i-implement, then titignan nila yon na dapat baguhin ito, i-veto natin ito, kasi mahirap sa parte natin na although may budget, may programa, pero kung napaka-restrictive yung provision na yon, sayang din, useless, hindi natin magagamit yung pondo na naka-allocate dun sa particular program. So, it's not only the budget, but also the provision underlying the budget.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Nais ko ring hikayatin ng ating mga mamamayan na ipagpatuloy ang pagiging mapanuri and maging vigilant lalo sa mga usaping ito. I'm glad to see that the people are responding, and also our executive is also being sensitive to the clamor made by the public. Sana laging ganito, no? Taon-taon, and this is the only way that we can ensure na mapapanatili natin ang ating demokrasya at magkakaroon tayo ng transparency and accountability sa ating national budget.
Thank you. Big Samintak from Net25.
Morning po. Good afternoon pala. Today is the last day of session before the holiday break. What do we expect sa last session, sir and ma'am?
Ang alam ko magkakaroon ng the speaker will address the members today, and hindi pa natin alam kung anong pag-uusapan niya, no? And of course, nag-aantabay din kami kung ano mangyayari dito sa pagre-review ng ating national budget. So these are things that kami bilang congressman we have in mind. Also nga napag-usapan din tong third impeachment complaint, ano? Aware din kami dyan, pero we don't know. Wala pa naman natatanggap eh. So, abangan ang susunod na kabanata.
Okay.
Okay na po ba tayo?
Meron pang one question, ma'am. Last.
Okay.
For today's last question, and I hope this is our last press conference for the year so that we can enjoy the holidays.
Ganda.
Billy Vegas from Abante and Politico.
Pasensya na po, habol lang. Hingi lang po sana ako ng reaction kasi after po nung ma-discovery na napakaraming Mary Grace Priatos doon sa good government, meron po bang dapat gawin yung ombudsman? Salamat po. Well, I think it will be part of the recommendations of the Committee on Good Government and Accountability, no? Meron namang motu proprio powers ang ombudsman to review the veracity of these documents, or if in any case there was perjury or kung ano mang crimes involved in the submission and utilization of these documents. Antayin na rin siguro natin yung final progress report ng komite sa presentation sa plenaryo, at siguro ang trigger doon yung approval din ng plenaryo before it is transmitted also to the other agencies for their appropriate action.
With that, we're concluding our press conference, and we invite our resource persons to give their short closing remarks.
So, itong Paskong ito, syempre naaalala rin natin ng mga nasalanta ng mga natural calamities na nagdaan sa ating bansa mula sa bandang Bicol, bandang Cagayan, ngayon ang Canlaon. Syempre, nais naming paalala mula sa House of Representatives ang aming pakikiisa at makakaasa mga nasalanta ng mga natural calamities na ito na gagawin namin lahat ng aming makakaya para mapunan ang kanilang mga pangangailangan. Special Christmas greetings to the members of the press. Thank you for bearing with us throughout the entire year. Naging exciting ba ang taon natin? Palagay ko. Oo. So you look forward to more excitement. O, diba? And ang wish ko for everyone is basically this: health. And when I talk about health, it's not only physical but also mental health. And then also direction and purpose in life. preferably a higher purpose, and a sense of belonging to the community, to the society. And the third, of course, happiness and love para sa inyong lahat. Whether romantic love, family love, divine love, okay? O diba? Lalo sa aming mga walang love life dyan. Since Christmas, I'm in divine love. Parang I'm in love with the baby Jesus. Yun lang.
Marami tayong hinarap na pagsubok nitong nagdaang mga buwan, no? And maraming maingay din sa politika, sa ating bansa. Pero in the end, no, naging napakita natin na anumang pagsubok ang ating hinarap sa mga natural disasters, nanatili tayong matatag bilang isang bansa. At sana po ngayong